The Multipod podcast brings multipotentialites together to discover common interests, projects, and offers in a spirit of community and collaboration. Join me, Ted Craig, as I feature guests from around the world here to share their stories and find meaningful connections. Your call to action? Reach out to them after this episode and say hello. The episode you're about to listen to takes place outside, so in the spirit of that, in the spirit of summer, and largely in the spirit of podcasting where we can pretty much do whatever we want, I decided why not record this intro outside here on my back deck. So this episode that is coming up does take place outside at Camp Indie. It's with myself and Becca Campbell, who I know a lot of you know, not just online perhaps, but in person. She's been to a lot of the same events that many of us have been to. Becca and I, let me think, have met each other 3 times now in person, twice at Camp Indie, once at the Everything Conference. So the second time, just a few weeks ago at Camp Indie 2025, we thought, hey, this is a chance to record something in person for the Multipod and have a fun conversation. So what's interesting here with this episode is that we really decided to focus on a topic. It's something we pulled from my list of topics. Now, I really encourage people to check this out. It's on the website. If you're curious about coming on the show, which I definitely encourage you to do, there are a list of topics that I've come up with and other people have given me ideas, and it just keeps growing over time of various things that are of interest to multipotentialites and some kind of philosophical ideas and things we can ideas we can bounce around and have a really nice conversation about. So in this case, one that really popped out for both of us was this question of completion for multipotentialites. So when we take on a project, when we take on a new interest, are we thinking, that's the thing, what is our approach to completion? Is it something that we feel we want to complete, that we need to complete? Does it feel half finished or something? If we don't, do we think we need to come back to it in the future? Of course, we're the type of people that, put less weight and less value on the notion of completion, and yet it's still nice to complete things, finish things from time to time, as Becca and I will talk about. So, yeah, very interesting topic to kind of revolve around from, of course, the perspective of us multipotentialites and how we tackle that challenge, maybe, how we tackle that idea. So that's what we talked about. Most of all, it was really fun to be in person and to be able to have a conversation. And when I was listening back to the recording, just before recording this here right now, it really occurred to me that it was just that. It was a nice, fun, casual, easygoing conversation. And that's exactly the type of thing I want to do here on this show. So, of course, we want to connect our guests with the listeners. We've got lots of great topics that we can explore. But I really just like the idea, kind of like in a setting like this, it's very natural, very casual, comfortable, and relaxed, that we kind of give ourselves a bit of a guideline, a bit of pointers, and then let's just relax and have a neat conversation because we have this podcast that's open and available to anyone who wants to come on and join me and chat about something interesting, something that really relates to multipotentialites. So keep that in mind. I'll come back to that later as I summarize this episode. But it was a really enjoyable conversation to listen to. I hope you find that as well. And it was great to have Becca on the show. So this is my conversation recently, just a few weeks ago, at Camp Indie 2025 with Becca Campbell. So we're at Camp Indie.
Yeah.
Becca's with me. She's sitting right in front of me.
Hi.
It's so nice to be here in person.
I know. That's the best part.
We're going to talk for as long as we can before our batteries die and we're exhausted because it's been a busy weekend. But, well, I'm not sure how much we'll really get into here. At least right now, we'll probably follow up some more later. But I really wanted to do something while we're in person to capture this moment, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's the beauty of a weekend like this. And we have the Everything Conference to see people in person and just be able to do that. And it's such a different vibe, of course. It's right. The natural thing. It's what humans do. We interact in person, right? Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we have technology. We can keep in touch, but it's nice to be in person.
It's nice to see someone's face move when they're talking and just facial expressions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. How are you feeling after this weekend?
I'm feeling pretty good. I did a pretty good pace for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's when you go to a conference and you're meeting a bunch of people all at once, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the things that everybody wants to talk to you about.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't let that take over. I made it just the supplement to having some nice time in a camp environment and just taking a break from my regular life.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. I've always done that here from day one. I've been here now 4 times, and I tell people it's as much a vacation as anything. I'm not trying to run around and do everything and all the activities. Like, I want to sit by the lake, read a book, go swimming, and not have to do dishes and not have to do laundry. Get kids up in the morning and on to school.
That's right. That's right. Don't want to do dishes. I forgot that I wasn't doing dishes. That is a key aspect to this.
How about we do this in terms of topics that we want to pursue? And I think we're going to talk about completion, right?
Yeah,
that concept. So I was intrigued. Now, anyone listening, I will point out again that this is largely going to be an audio episode because I'm not going to dig my foot in here and say it has to be video. We work with what we got, and I'm more than I prefer audio. So this is much easier. But anyway.
For sure.
Yeah, so the point is that anyone listening, now we do have a list now with a multi-pod of topics, people, things we can discuss when guests come on if they want to talk about any of those. And one that's on the list is this question of how do multipotentialites approach the notion of completion. This is very philosophical. So it's, how do we look at that mentality? Do we complete things? How do we look back at the things that we didn't complete? How do we let go of those projects? How do we make the decision to stop doing something? And, how do we even look back on that over years in our lives and say all the things I didn't do, maybe things you completed, maybe things you didn't. But I find that's a really fascinating angle to this whole lifestyle and mental multipotentiality, right? Is that we start and do so many things. We can't possibly complete them all. So do we even try? But what's the relationship maybe with completion?
Well, for me, do different things, and maybe if they all relate, that's great, but don't necessarily do something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end and go through the whole thing. Sometimes I'll start it and I'll set it down and then pick it back up years later when something has changed in my development or something has changed in my ideas. And I don't necessarily think I've quit it, so I won't use that word. In fact, quit is a dirty word for me because it has this implication that we have to linear stop and linear start, or linear start and linear stop.
Sure.
And I went to 5 colleges, and I can tell you that I got everything I needed out of each college when I left.
Yeah.
And so when people say, oh, you dropped out, I say, no, I just completed.
There you go.
I completed. And they don't give you an award for that. And they don't tell you that's the best way to go. The schools want you to stay and graduate. But I got all the things I needed at the time. And I don't regret it. Not one moment. And I think, yeah, that's fine. And that's how we talk to our kid.
Yeah.
You get to complete. Yeah. You can leave anytime, basically, and you can come back whenever you want, if you want to.
The irony, I bet, is that when you tell people you completed a school, quote unquote completed, they probably just say, yeah, well, that means she got a degree, right?
Right.
They won't pursue it and say, well, did you actually complete it?
Right. Well, and there are sometimes, like, I read a lot of books and I don't complete them, but I got what I needed to get out of it. And I don't think I didn't catch, unless they really left the best part to the last sentence, I don't think I'm missing too much, Yeah.
That's interesting. I find that, I find it hard to put down, or not complete a book. Once I've started it, I feel like, well, I've made this commitment, I should see it through. It's very rare I don't finish a book unless it's really, really dry or boring, I guess. But, if it's otherwise kind of like, well, it's almost like, yeah, a commitment. I started this book, I should finish it. I feel the need to finish it. But, yeah, that's interesting that you can...
I might come back to the book.
Sure.
Also, I mean, that's totally possible. I don't think I throw out every book I don't finish. I think sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm ready for it now, or maybe I wasn't ready when I started and now is a good time because it's more relevant to my life.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another idea of completion. Maybe not everything is relevant all at once the very first go through, and maybe you just put it down as a project or, even a relationship. So, yeah.
Do you return to things years later? And are you able to pick up where you left off?
No, I'm a different person, right? I mean, when I left it, whatever was going on was the thing that was pushing me or pulling me in one direction. But I'm the type of multipotentialite that will go to something and then maybe I'll dip my toe in at first, not knowing if it's for me. And then I'll come back after some research and really dive deeper because now I understand what I'm looking at better. And so I come back all the time to a lot of more, not projects, I would say, but more interests. Like I love stand-up comedy. There was a time in my life when I was interested in doing it. That was fun. I did it a couple times. And then I thought, you know what, let me study a little bit more because maybe it's not, clicking all the way. And so I studied it. And then I thought, no, I guess I don't need to go back to doing it. I can now be a professional appreciator of comedy.
Okay.
Right? And I'm just a super fan. And I don't need to be a comedian to be funny, number one, and number two, to appreciate all the breadth of comedy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good way to put it. I do come back, but I don't come back the same way.
Okay, yeah. Now, you're writing a book, right?
Yes.
Do you see that as a project that needs to be completed?
100%.
Okay.
There are times when completion is necessary. I put work into it and I would like to share it with people, and I don't want to share a draft. I want to share something that went to editors and actually make sense all at once. So I do feel that there's a time and a place for doing that. And I also feel that completing the book would be an act of service. So maybe if the project is private, maybe I don't care so much about completing it, but maybe if it needs to be given to somebody or it has a deadline in some way, then I put that priority of completion, a little bit higher up.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to accountability?
Like the concept of it?
Yeah.
I don't love it. I think I can be in a relationship with a thing and tell someone about the relationship, but for it to be like, I want to be accountable to you, like we're going to be an accountability team, and then you'll just make sure I'm doing it without saying, hey, well, why aren't you doing it? There could be a good reason. And the extra expectation and disappointment add-on that comes with accountability not being fulfilled, meaning like I just didn't finish or I stopped interacting with someone who was my accountability partner.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just to me is adding another obstacle. And maybe for the people who need more accountability, they might have other questions or other things going on that maybe there's a reason why they're not doing it. And that should be maybe explored.
It's a lot more nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I mean, if somebody is just, I can't do it, then I want to say, let's find out why, rather than, well, how about I just bug you to death? That doesn't seem like a good plan.
So when you embark on a project, do you have the mindset of thinking, I want to complete this, or just see where it goes?
I think it probably depends on the project, just to be honest, but I bet I want to see where it goes, because sometimes my idea isn't the best idea. And if I talk to enough people about it, they maybe would nudge me in tiny little direction, positions differently. And then I think, oh yeah, no, that's right. I didn't want to really do that. That was just my first thought. And so if I had to stay with my original idea and like never let anyone give me any input, then never mind. I think that would be a very stale project.
Do you find that completion is something you struggle with, or is it maybe a partner on the journey? That when it comes to projects, right? Multipotentialites, we're always talking projects.
I don't want to flip it too hard the other way. Where like it doesn't matter if I don't complete it. I'm good enough anyways. But I think I have said in the past, follow through is not my friend. Like we don't have a good relationship. And maybe that relates to completion. I mean, it doesn't always follow through, doesn't always have to mean completion, but I think sometimes I start a journey in a project, I'll just be like, oh, I'm really into trains. Well, what if I actually find out I'm really into city infrastructure?
Okay.
And trains are a big part of that. And I got interested through trains, but maybe I want to explore, the wider thing.
Right.
Should I stay with the trains if the other thing has more joy or has more, I don't know, something? And yeah, the answer is no. I'm going to follow the thing that first foray into trains got me to this next level. And then I can say, yeah, I'm going into urban planning or talking about or learning about urban planning.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, I'm just going to say it, the capitalist world wants everybody to give the full thing. And is that the most important thing? Or is it just something we're told that has the most value, but it may not? Right? That just, not for me necessarily, I guess. Maybe that's the big point. But I haven't lived a less full life because I don't complete every single thing I start. I mean, that's just the truth of it.
Do you feel maybe more pride or satisfaction, probably better, with projects, things you have completed? Something
that I'm like really into that I was like, oh, wow, I did this.
Yeah.
Completing college. So I took 9 years to go to college. I'm coming back to that. When I finished, I wasn't disappointed. I was definitely satisfied and happy.
Right.
It took me that long, though. And at every time I switched schools, there was that moment of, should I keep going? And at the very end, I am very happy I completed. Not for any other thing, but that I had a experience of education the way I wanted it. Yeah. And it had nothing to do with my degree. Nobody asks me about that. So
that's interesting. I love to talk about that.
But
because you go to college to get a degree, and I mean, hopefully you learn something and sets you up for a career, blah blah blah. But it's like the degree, the letters after your name is supposedly the goal. What the hell with that? I want to know about the experience,
right?
And who cares if you finish it, complete it,
right?
Therefore, logically,
right?
Well,
and some people do complete it, and I never ask them about that. That's not what makes them interesting. That's not what, I mean. If you went to get your accounting degree, I assume if you're working in accounting, you completed it. Good job, I guess. But I've never said it. I've never said like, oh, you completed your degree, more power to you.
Yeah.
And because that hasn't been the most important thing about the person. And I can't think of a lot of things like, oh, you completed your, I mean, I'm impressed as far as people can be impressed about completion in some categories. Oh, you got a black belt. But I also know that that's not the end of the black belt's life, right?
Yeah.
They don't just get it and then be done. They keep going.
What happens next?
Yeah, they're in the practice of it, right? So I just imagine, isn't that true for so many different things? Is completion the goal? I don't know. I don't necessarily think that.
Yeah, that's getting deeper now.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about, the Olympic athletes and so on who devote their lives to like being the absolute best and excelling, probably from when they were 7 or 8 years old or something, right?
Right.
And what happens when you do it? You achieve the thing. Like, what happens next? And then you look back on whatever it is, 15 something, 20 years of your life. Like, did you have other interests? Did there other things? I don't know. I find it very hard to wrap my head around being able to push everything else out of your life to devote to that one thing. Therefore, to some kind of completion,
right.
However you measure that, is it a gold medal? Is it like, I don't know, fame or money or something? I don't know. Is it just a personal satisfaction? How do we measure completion, I guess? It's really the question.
Well, and what happens when people retire in an Olympic sport? Let's keep with that.
Yeah.
Now what? So now is their entire life over? No, I mean, they're usually very young.
That's true.
I would say that most of them carry on with sponsorships and maybe investments that they had from their time. But those people are in their 30s.
Yeah.
Like, that's barely when people are starting to figure out what they're doing. So could you possibly say that, like, well, I've completed my biggest goal. Now what? I would love to see where are they now with athletes. I'd kind of like to see what the bronze athletes are doing, right? Because are they getting sponsorships? Now what? Were they once just a Olympic athlete and now they're, I don't know, did they go into law? Well, maybe did they go to college? I know a lot of them don't go to college because it's going to take away from their Olympic athletic dreams.
The training,
So yeah, I'm very curious about that too.
So that came back to the point that I should try to find somebody, I don't know about Olympic athlete, but somebody to come on this show who's the complete opposite, 180-degree difference, right, of multipotentialites.
Yes, I would love that.
That would be interesting. We've never done that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it would take all of us here listening and so on out of our bubble maybe, and like, what's it like, that total opposite perspective?
Right. And do they know what we are doing?
The impression is that they have no clue. Like, I just knew from when I was 5 years old that this is what I wanted to do, right? Okay.
Yeah. And maybe they have a couple other interests, but are they at the same level, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, that would be interesting.
And I'm also curious about, I guess, the athletes again. Sometimes you hear about like the hockey players or something who are like made it, big time NHL, but they also happen to be musicians and they have like some band or something, Well, I mean, that takes some practice too. When did you learn to play the guitar like that while you were going to hockey practice every morning? I'm curious how they fit it all in.
Yeah. And some people, I mean, I know this is true of many multipotentialites, that they need the other things to maybe offset and give their brain a break so that they can be good at something else.
Yeah.
And they inch them up together at the same time. So, heavy band in the summer and then heavy hockey in the winter, right? And maybe that is a type of potential, a multipotentialite, but I also think like maybe that's how brains work, that you can't singularly do a thing because you really do need the input of something else in your life, either to give you a break or just to supplement.
Yeah, just different perspective. Yeah, switching things off.
Yeah.
Interesting. Does any of that resonate with the way you pursue projects and interests?
Oh, yeah. I think when I first started, so let's go back to the book. I first started writing more of a travel memoir. Just like, hey, I've had a life of travel. I should write it down because they're stories, but they haven't been, written. They just verbalized. And I wrote recently about the way I travel with my family because I think it's a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
And then as I took a break from it, I did come back to it because I was like, maybe we're not ready for this. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I came back to it 2 years later, and lo and behold, I had a completely different way that I wanted to write it, still using stories, but really focusing on helping neurodivergent families with neurodivergent children, have an easeful mind about doing it, right? Okay. That you don't have to go perfectly and it doesn't have to be amazing, and also bring all your, energy with you. Different book altogether. Like I almost had to put that first book aside.
So you basically restarted it.
Yeah. And I haven't even reread the draft thinking I might pull some stuff out. I wanted to do that. But then I thought, why? At that time, I was writing it more as a personal story. And now the second round, I was writing it to show specific things what we learned when we traveled that allowed us to travel better the next time. Yeah. So I don't want to say that it was hacking, but it was more along the lines of like, oh yeah, we figured out this way to do this better when my kid got older. So yeah, I thought that if I had completed that first book and put it out there and, depending on how that was received, never got to the second book, then I wouldn't actually be able to think, is there even a business in helping people? Writing the book is one part, but then what if I could actually coach other people or just, give people ways to navigate certain things that they wanted to do internationally that they didn't think that domestically is a little bit easier. So I needed to have the space and the time. I probably did something else. I wasn't just writing books. To think, oh yeah, maybe this is an avenue I want to go down. And then I've talked to a bunch of people, and it's probably gotten the most interest of any of my business ideas. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them. Speaking of not completing, I don't complete a lot of my business ideas, and it's fine because I try it. I learn something from it. I put it down, and I learned what I needed to learn at the time. But now I realize, oh yeah, I did that, and it gave me the space, and now I can go back. So.
I would still love to hear your travel stories, though. Are they still going to be in the book?
They are.
Okay.
They're just, when I've been telling them verbally, they're not lessons. They're not like, and then after that, we started doing it differently this time. I just end the story when I'm telling it just as like, oh, this was funny, or this was interesting, or yeah. And then sometimes it's not relevant. Like, yeah, one of the things I do with my kid is we have him eat before we go out at home. Like when we're traveling, he eats the food that he knows he likes. So there's not an empty stomach to deal with when we get there. Yeah. And then if he wants more or different, he can try some stuff. But that's not a story. That's just
advice.
It's advice. And then one day we did it because he was like, what is this? Why I don't want to eat this. And so we had showed up without any, we didn't figure out that he didn't want to eat it. He showed up, didn't want it, and then we were like, well, I guess we're going to eat and leave real quick. But yeah, no, there are definitely some stories in there where it's amusing, or it was amusing at the time. And then I also learned my own lesson from it too. So I put the lesson into this book rather than just say, wasn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Do you have a title or a draft title?
No title. It's just, at this point, is basically us navigating before my kid was diagnosed with ADHD and autism, and then after, and how that changed over time. And maybe when I first started writing it, I was so excited that we had a successful trip that I didn't think about the future of having successful trips. Like I was like, great, we finished it. No one cares about what it was like before. And I realized actually they might. So maybe I should write it down.
Yeah.
And then that actually, speaking of, this is a good point, that got me to think about, I don't talk about the small moments about travel. I say, this was a great trip. And then I have like some 5 bullet points. And then I don't think, actually, this tiny moment was really important. And I think about that tiny moment all the time, but it's not necessarily a huge, long story.
Right.
But I thought, that's part of what a memoir would be, right? It's talking about how travel has made me who I am. I mean, that's what my version of a memoir would be. So, I did also need the neurodivergent book to then spawn a more solid idea about what I would write just of my life traveling. It has nothing to do with my family, just like, oh, when I was a kid, here's my experience. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to get the backstory and more perspective, right?
Yeah.
And now and then we would understand why travel is so important and meaningful to you.
Right. Yeah, I think it will come in time, I'm sure, if that neurodivergent book is like, oh, if this is just a tiny bit in your adult life, what else came before?
Yeah.
And I don't think I tell people, and this is why I learned to do this, or this is why this is important. It feels awkward to bring it up one point at a time, but a book would show you a timeline. And again, that's maybe also important about completion.
Yeah. So this is turning into a full episode, which is great. Now we don't have to. So that means that I want to talk briefly about your writing and Substack and how people can connect with you. So in what ways would you like to connect with the listeners?
Well, Substack is my main thing at the moment. My name, Becca Campbell, at BeccaCampbellSubstack.com.
Right.
That's the easiest way to see my work. And then I am working on BLC Travels, Substack.com, just so I can start putting some of this down and then maybe collect the shorter versions into a longer anthology type thing. But those are the top 2 for now. And more will be revealed, and maybe I can get back on and talk about different stuff later.
Yeah, cool. So people can subscribe to you there. They can send you private messages, right?
Yes, I think you can comment through that, and then also direct message.
And maybe then in particular, you were talking earlier today here, camp, about travel with neurodiverse, well, people and maybe children in particular. But so anyone listening and that speaks to you, of course, could be your situation, they can reach out to you for that as well.
Yeah, and I do have a direct email. It's matchingsweaters@gmail.com.
Okay.
So that's my
That sounds like a story.
It is a story, but we can talk about it next time.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll be right there to sign up for your Substack.
Sweet.
And looking forward to those travel stories. I'm glad to talk about completion and how we wrap our heads around that as multipotentialites. And most of all, I'm really glad to do this in person while we have a chance.
This is
even though
really
it's
great.
10:30 or something at night here.
Yeah.
But we got it in.
Sweet.
So, thanks.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah. Cheers. Well, I've realized that I have struggled myself with this question of completion and commitment. I think it's related to commitment. So when I was listening to the recording here, which you've just listened to as well, it's all very fresh in our minds. And I realized I forgot to talk about or bring up that question maybe of how commitment relates to completion. So I often hesitate to even try something if I'm like, I don't have the time to like see it through and complete it and like feel maybe satisfied or feel like I got the most out of it, you know? But it really, I think it's important to challenge that question of completion. Do you have to finish things, essentially? Do you have to complete and finish something to feel satisfied? And I feel like the way we were framing it here in this conversation maybe help me let go of that a little bit to say that, well, look, obviously you can try things out and things will always change and adapt from what your expectations might have been anyway from when you started. So just be in the moment and enjoy doing the thing, exploring something. If you want to see it through, if you want to take it to the next level, go ahead and do it. So I don't know about you, it's something I've certainly struggled with as far as even making a start and like trying something, because it's like, well, what's the point of doing something if I don't think I can kind of see it through and get the most out of it, you know? But maybe it's a better attitude to say, try something out, see where it goes. And again, if you want to, if you like what you're doing, if you kind of like how far you've gone so far, then there's always the opportunity to keep pursuing it and see where it goes. Some of that comes back to this podcast because, yes, for sure, I'm making the commitment and, you know, getting the episodes out, and that's important to me to do that. How would I define that as far as completion goes? I mean, is this a project that is ever completed? I think it just kind of lives in the moment. Again, it runs its course if it does. I like to think and reflect on the fact that this podcast has been around for, 7.5 years. So it's had its share of twists and turns and lots of different contributors and now different formats. And that's really the nature of it, again, living in that moment. So if our conversation today about completion helps me and helps you frame how we try things and approach things, then I hope that it's been a fruitful conversation, certainly on that end. Here's another point too, the fact that, sure, I had hoped and kind of expected to record it in video, as I try to do now with every episode, but it just wasn't happening. We had technical glitches and it was taking too long. I think at some point there you mentioned it was like 10 o'clock or something at night or getting close to it. And it's like, look, let's just record an audio. At least it's better than nothing. And, it's just fine. And so afterwards, the next day at camp there, I went around and took some pictures and some little videos. And if you're watching this on YouTube, that's what you'll see is some of that footage that kind of plays over top of the actual conversation, right? The recording. Goes to show, you just kind of roll with it and adapt and, be open to trying things. And especially in a podcast like this, which remains pretty experimental. I try to have some structure, but always open to trying new things. I know that it will change and evolve over time. I'll play with the intros and outros and things like that, maybe different formats. And so to that sense, it's very true to its original form and format and intention way back in the beginning of 2018 when we started this thing, that the multipod is as much about experimentation and trying things out as, having a podcast in itself. The only thing that's really changed now with this relaunch is that intentionality of connecting people. So if what Becca shared, especially her Substack, speaks to you, I really encourage you to sign up and follow what she's doing. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to reading her book whenever it comes out and supporting her on that journey too. So just a final word really to say thanks again to Becca for coming on the show. It's great to see you again in person. I'm sure we'll catch up again someday, somewhere. And final word really is that if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, then reach out and come on the show. If you would like to have a conversation that's casual, relaxed, that's interesting, that, explores some topics that relate to multipotentiality and how we frame and how we look at life and our kind of place in the world, but to do it, in a very casual, relaxed way that we can then share with others as a podcast, this is a place to do it. So I really encourage you to reach out to me. You can write to themultipodcast@gmail.com, and I'll reply to you there. And again, also on our new website, themultipod.com, there's a guest page. You can fill out the guest form, which is really just a couple fields, and suggest a topic, and follow up with that too. Very easy to do. I'll give you all the instructions for how to record if you haven't done so before, which is another good point too. If you've never been on a podcast, this is a great way to do it, to get that experience and see what it's like. So Multipod is here for you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll be back again very soon with another fresh new episode. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks to my guests today for sharing their story and what they're up to. You can find all the links and resources that we talked about in the description for this episode. Really don't hesitate to reach out and make that contact. Now you know that they exist, they need to know that you're out there too. A simple email or message can suffice. Or send a more substantial message if there's something that really jumped out for you. The Multipod has a new website, themultipod.com. Here you'll find the archives of the podcast in its previous form, all 111 episodes, a number of bonus episodes, and our Everything Conference mini-series, as well as the new episodes and the resources therein as they are released. Over time, we'll build it out for the best searchability and referencing possible so you can easily find who you're looking for. But a nice spreadsheet will suffice for now. The website also has a new guest application form. Let us know what topic or topics you would like to connect with people about, and we will set up a recording. As a guest, this is your primary task. Come prepared. Like all podcasts, the Multipod will thrive thanks to sharing, reviews, subscribing and commenting if you're on YouTube, and just generally getting the word out to multipotentialites that this resource exists. So help us spread our reach and create more opportunities and exposure for everyone. You can reach me at themultipodcast@gmail.com. That's themultipodcast@gmail.com. Or again, the website is simply themultipod.com. New episodes will be out on the 1st and 15th of every month. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today, and we'll see you again soon.